Hey everybody, welcome back. We are headed on another road trip adventure. It's a beautiful day here in Florida. It's 79 degrees.
It's going to be 83, I think, today.
No, we are excited about this weather, and we're headed to a place we've been before on this channel. It's called the Loxahatchee River Battleground. It's a historical site where there was a really important battle during the Second Seminole Indian War. And we are going to go watch the battle reenactment and take you guys along with us.
Let's go.
You excited?
I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Let's go.
After the American Revolutionary War, Spain regained control of Florida from Britain as part of the Treaty of Paris. Native American Indians set up farms and acquired land grants from the Spanish. At the same time, escaped slaves from the newly created United States took advantage of the treaty and the freedom found in Florida. They joined with the Native American Indians to create a band known as the Seminoles, comprised of the Maroons and of the Black Seminoles. Viewing this camaraderie as a threat, either in anticipation of invasion or the loss of more enslaved people escaping into freedom, the United States instigated the First Seminole Indian War in 1817 through 1818 on the Florida-Georgia border to push the Seminoles further south in Florida. Florida eventually became a burden to Spain because Spain could not afford to send settlers or man garrisons. Florida was ceded to the United States in 1821 in a treaty that defined the new boundary between the United States and Mexico. As soon as the United States acquired Florida, it began urging the Seminole Indians to leave their lands and homes and relocate along with other southeastern tribes to Indian Territory, which is present-day Oklahoma.
Gorgeous view here of the Loxahatchee River. I'm looking, but I don't see any alligators or turtles. Does anybody else see any? Beautiful.
Some Seminole leaders acquiesced and part of the tribes moved, but other Seminoles refused and fled into the Florida Everglades. Unsatisfied, the United States government continued to lobby against the tribe. In May of 1832, the Treaty of Payne's Landing required the Indians to forfeit all of their land in Florida and move west within a 3-year window. In 1835, the United States Army arrived in Florida to enforce the removal, only to find the Native Americans were prepared for the fight, and the Second Seminole Indian War began on December 23, 1835. The campaigns of the Second Seminole War were an outstanding demonstration of guerrilla warfare by the Seminoles. This war was the fiercest war ever waged by the United States government against the American Indians, and it continued until August of 1842. The United States spent more than $20 million fighting the Seminoles, and the war left more than 1,500 soldiers and uncounted American civilians dead. There were two battles fought at the Loxahatchee River, and they occurred west of what is now the town of Jupiter, Florida, in January of 1838. The first battle of the Loxahatchee, known as Powell's Battle, occurred on January 15, 1838. This battle involved a mixed Navy and Army unit under Lieutenant Levin M. Powell. The second battle of the Loxahatchee, known as Jessup's Battle, occurred on January the 24th, 1838. This battle involved an army under Major General Thomas Jessup. The two battles were fought within a few miles of each other against the same group of Seminole Indians. Lieutenant Powell led the Everglades Expeditionary Unit, a mixed force of Navy and Army, up the Loxahatchee River on January the 15th, 1838, in search of Seminole villages and settlements. Powell's men had captured a Seminole woman and ordered her to lead them to the nearest settlement against her will. Marching west, they saw smoke trails rising from the cypress swamps, and they knew they had encountered a Seminole encampment. Leaving 23 men to guard his boats, Powell divided his remaining men under 3 lieutenants. After marching 5 miles, they were suddenly met with hot musket fire from Seminole warriors. A running firefight in the swamp ensued as Powell ordered his men to charge. The Seminoles fell back into a dense cypress swamp where they made a determined stand and slowly regained control. The battle ended at dusk with severe casualties for the U.S. forces. Powell and 2 of his lieutenants were all wounded, and the naval surgeon was killed. The loss of the officers caused most of Powell's force to fall back into disorder. The 4th lieutenant was wounded as he attempted to cover the retreat. With all the officers now down, Joseph E. Johnston took charge and organized a successful retreat. The men and boats left after dark to return to nearby Fort Pierce. One boat containing gunpowder and alcohol was accidentally left behind in the dark. After recovering a man initially thought to be killed, Powell reported his losses as 4 killed and 22 wounded. After being notified that Powell had definitively located a group of encamped Seminoles, Major General Thomas S. Jessup brought his own army overland from Fort Pierce on January the 24th, passing west of the St. Lucie River and approaching the Seminole encampment from the west. Jessup had a force of about 1,500 men, 600 dragoons, 400 artillery, 400 Tennessee volunteers, 100 Alabama volunteers, and 35 Delaware Indian scouts. On the afternoon of January 24th, Jessup's scouts located the Seminoles in a dense hammock. The Seminoles were outnumbered nearly 7-1. Jessup's men, dragoons, and infantry attacked with support from cannons and Congreve rockets. The Seminoles fell back across the Loxahatchee River and took up a second position on the east bank, waiting for the troops to follow. The Tennessee volunteers held a position on the west of the river, putting them in direct line of withering musket fire that prevented their advance. Jessup dismounted from his horse, drew his pistol, and attempted to lead the Tennessee volunteers in a fool's charge across the river, but the troops refused to follow. Jessup was shot in the face and had his eyeglasses blown off in the process. The battle ended when Colonel Harvey led 15 dragoons across the river upstream of the Seminoles and outflanked their position, causing them to retreat in scattered groups and then flee into the Everglades. 7 U.S. soldiers were killed and 31 were wounded, while the Seminole casualties are unknown. This engagement is considered the last true battle of the Second Seminole Indian War. After the battle, Jessup's group marched east to what is now Pinnock Point, where they established Fort Jupiter. The general began unsuccessfully petitioning the federal government to allow the Seminoles to remain in the Everglades of Florida and end the war. Washington repeatedly denied Jessup's request and instead sent William Lauderdale and his Tennessee volunteers south from Fort Jupiter to New River, where they established Fort Lauderdale in an attempt to continue the efforts to vanquish and remove the remaining Seminoles who had fled into the Everglades. Ultimately, 600 Seminole Indians were duplicitously captured under a false white flag of truce at Fort Jupiter. They were imprisoned and deported to Oklahoma. The obvious deceit of the United States government marred Indian and white relations throughout the country for generations.
The Seminoles and Maroons quickly melted away into the wilderness. $696 Seminole people were captured by U.S. military forces while camped at Fort Jupiter under a white flag of truce. Deportations to Oklahoma began immediately. The Trail of Tears had found its way to Jupiter. Between 1838 and 1841, about 1,000 Seminole and Maroon people walked Jupiter's Trail of Tears to Tampa Bay, where they were imprisoned before being put on ships and transported to Oklahoma. Thank you all for coming.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed watching this video. Thank you so much if you are still here. Please check out the Loxahatchee Battle Preservationists website or on Facebook if you'd like to learn more. They have held an annual reenactment of the battles every year in January since 2007. I'll see you guys another day in another video.